Hey there, welcome to Security Stitches, where we untangle cybersecurity stories one stitch at a time. I am your host, Ushi, and before you ask, yes, I'm literally knitting while we talk about some of the most fascinating cybersecurity kind of stories in history, or incidences maybe. Today, I am working on a version of the Norwegian resistance hat. I apologize, I do not have a picture of it. That would have been a great idea. However, this is a first time thing where I'm trying something new. I have never knitted and talked about cybersecurity stories before. So, let me know how you like it. Let me know if we're doing good, if this is something that you enjoy, or, we should stick to other formats. Let me know down below. In case you're interested, I am using a pattern that I got from Ravelry called Melt the Ice, and it is based on the traditional Norwegian resistance hat. And something that I find like a super fun fact is that back during World War II, it became illegal in Norway to wear this hat during the German occupation of Norway. You could seriously get arrested for wearing this hat. The pattern became a symbol of a cultural resistance and national identity when expressing Norwegian pride was banned. It's perfect for today's topic because we are talking about love letters and deception. Recently, this hat became popular again. I don't know when the last time it may have been popular was, but during the incidences that have been going on between ICE and Minnesotans, and it's pretty cold out there. People are protesting a lot, and so these hats have been popping up in the protests. People have been seeing them. Some people have gone with the traditional red color, like I'm doing. This is a little bit of a darker red. This is from, I love this yarn. This is from a there we go. This is from a dyer called Black Cat. Black Cat yarns, and I acquired her and her sister. I have two skeins of it. I acquired her from one of my absolute favorite, just little knitting shops online. Well, actually, she's just got her own space too. But it's knittingismetal.com. Love her. I am not sponsored. I just really like supporting small businesses and what I think are good causes. So here we go. So like I may have mentioned, or maybe I haven't, and it was just in my head. This is going to be something, I'm trying out. I have never knitted and talked about anything before, but specifically cybersecurity products. Why do I keep trying to say that? Cybersecurity stories. And so let me know what you think. Let me know if this is if you like it, or if you don't like it. Shoot me a comment down there in the comments below. I like getting comments. It's like getting mail as a kid. Remember when you loved getting mail, but you never got any? But every so often you'd get junk mail, and you'd be like, oh my God, I'm so excited I got junk mail. That's funny, because that actually kind of goes into today's thing as well. So anyways, let's get started. I got my tea in my tumbler that I love. I got my project. I got my notes. Let's do this. All right. So, what exactly is security stitches? Well, something interesting about cybersecurity and knitting is they both follow patterns. Knitting, you follow a pattern, and you make the loops and the scoops and the stabbies and the purls and the knits and the KFBs and KBBs and the KL. I don't know. I started making things up. There's so many weird acronyms to, figure out how to do the things. And when you follow those instructions, those patterns, you make something beautiful, something functional, something artistic, something informational. In future episodes, we're going to talk about kind of some of the ways that knitting has been used in things like intel gathering and sharing and spreading and cryptography and codes and all kinds of really cool stuff. Hold on, quick pause. Y'all, how hard, I do not know how to turn things on and off, how to close the door. I am loud and I have coworker, this will be the dog. I don't know where he is. Anyways, before I get back to it, I knit Portuguese style. And so this is a Portuguese knitting necklace that I use, and basically it captures it so that I do it a little bit differently, and it keeps my my joints from hurting when I'm knitting. So if you think that like, oh well, I can't knit because like continental or whatever hurts my hands, I was an avid crocheter for a really, really long time. And then I stopped crocheting pretty much because I just really love knitting and my hands stopped hurting. Like I was still crocheting through the pain. I would stop, take breaks, stretches, all that kind of stuff. I had a little ball I'd roll on my hand. But like, man, it just was still hurting. And so then I went to a yarn fiber festival. I live in New Hampshire, north of Boston, just north of Boston, about an hour. And so I'm super close to Salem, Massachusetts and New Hampshire. So I love Salem. I love going down there and check the place out. Turns out I actually have like my family members helped found. They were some of the original they were the part of the original founding group of a neighboring town, and were involved in the witch trials. So I find that all really fascinating. Anywho, so I went to a fiber festival down there, got super into knitting, and got the bug really, and then started knitting, got super into knitting, and it's all over from there. So anyways, thank you to Miss K for being the person who got me there. So anyways, cybersecurity and knitting, they're very similar. We have patterns, right? We follow a pattern in knitting. And in cybersecurity, we study patterns. We study attack patterns to understand how threats work, how to defend against them. And just like how one drop stitch in this hat could make the wrong drop stitch can make this whole hat just unravel completely. So if you're not careful, one security mistake can compromise an entire network. And that is exactly what happened on May 4th, 2000, when millions of people made the same small mistake. They opened an email attachment that looked innocent enough. The email had "I love you" in the subject line. I know. Aww. And it contained an attachment called loveletterforyou.txt.vbs. Now, if you know anything about technology or file extensions, that VBS is a huge red flag, and it's pretty common. You probably know what it means, but it's a Visual Basics script is what that stands for, and that means it's executable code, which means that when you download it or when you double click on it, instead of opening a text attachment, it's running code. And it was it was devastating. You might be thinking now, who's dumb enough to do that? But let me transport you back to the year 2000. We did not have cell phones. Emails were still pretty new, something that you were really just seeing like if you were in college or you were in the workplace. You might have some emails, but like it wasn't something necessarily that you were like, super into your, I guess you could have been real into your like personal email. I'm sure like people making up their funny, funky nicknames. I was never that person. I didn't have the creativity to come up with cool nicknames. I used the German nickname for Ursula as my nickname. That's what I thought it was called growing up. Anyways, so we're going to break down why I Love You was so effective. Just like we count stitches in our patterns so that we make sure that they are, true, we need to count the steps in I Love You's attack pattern. So first, because there's several steps, right? So the first thing we have is extension spoofing. That's that VBS or that txt.vbs. Okay. So the technique is like, imagine if I handed you what looks like a traditional pattern, but it was actually instructions for something completely different. Like you follow the pattern and instead of getting a hat, you get a napkin. I don't know, a scarf, right? Same thing. It looked like a text file, right? So you thought you were going to open it up and you were going to get whatever, but it was actually executable code. And like this wasn't new technology. It was just exploiting a user interface decision that Windows made to simplify things for users. And once it was executed, it did four main things. It replicated itself into every system directory. Like it replicated itself into system directories for what's called persistence. Kind of like how these like traditional patterns have been, preserved years and years. It modified Windows registry keys so that it would run at startup. And it accessed Microsoft Outlook, so your email, and it emailed itself to every single contact that you had, spreading like news in a resistance network, but like super, super quick. And finally, it overwrote a ton of files with specific extensions, so it would replace like photos, music, documents with copies of it itself. Now remember, this was 2000. We didn't have backups sitting in the cloud. Most of us didn't have backups unless you were like super tech and had a reason to care about all your stuff. Like we weren't thinking about these kinds of things, right? Like this kind of stuff didn't really happen a lot. So a lot of people, lost a lot of their memories in photos, because back then we were saving that stuff, on your one computer that you probably had in the house. So yeah, just to say, that's crazy. All their pictures or documents, can you imagine? You wrote a term paper, it was 19 pages long, 25, 100. Maybe you're doing a thesis, a doctoral thesis. Oh, it's gone. I'd be like, so. Anyways, so the destruction was devastating and it was super surgical. It targeted like JPEGs, MP3s, CSS, and like .doc files, so like your Word docs and stuff. Basically, all the stuff that people cared about, right? It wasn't random chaos; it was targeted mayhem, So, I'm at the lake a lot. There we go. All right, I told you I might lose my way at some point today. All right, I'm working on these Addy Flex Flips. They're kind of like I'm not sponsored. They're kind of like DPNs, double pointed needles, but instead of being a solid needle, they have this like flexy thing in the middle of it. And they're great for a variety of things. I am trying them out for the first time with this hat pattern because I do not like magic loop, but I do like having like the 2 needles. And so this is 3 needles, and yeah. Anyhow, that's gonna be all knitting about it. Okay, so here's the thing that made I Love You so genius. Okay, it wasn't technically sophisticated. The entire thing was written in VBS script, right? It was a pretty simple scripting language. One of the first you learn when you go to computer school. In fact, or computer school, like when you go to become like a software engineer. And like, in fact, a computer science student created it. Not some elite hacking group, not, anonymous, as, people think of, these crazy hacker groups. This was just a student. In fact, interestingly enough, this guy had actually, so his name, the creator was, I don't know how to say the first name, so I think it's Onel de Guzman. And Onel was a 24-year-old student at the AMA Computer College in Manila. He was poor, couldn't afford internet access, and he had actually proposed a thesis project for a program that could easily steal users' internet login credentials. And that project got rejected. I'm not sure why. Probably because they were like, you can't do that. The red team stuff is people don't understand it. They don't understand how hacking can be a good thing. And a lot of people don't understand that cybersecurity professionals are hackers also. And they're, we want to know how people are doing things. How can they get in? If you want to be proactive about it, then you've got to figure out where the exploits lie before a cyber criminal does. So the difference between hacking, or rather the difference between a cyber criminal and an infosec security professional, they can both be hackers. One is doing things with authorization and one is not. That's the difference. So when you hear the term hacker, that doesn't necessarily mean that that person is a criminal, or that they're doing things bad, or that they're doing things without permission. So anyways, my little side rant. So yeah, Onel, Mr. De Guzman, that's what we'll call him. De Guzman basically just got some like giant revenge. It was just rebellion. It was his version of resistance, I guess. So here's where I feel like it gets interesting, though, from like a social engineering perspective. I Love You didn't succeed because it was like some NASA level thing. It succeeded because of human nature. We're social creatures. We're curious about connection, and just curious in nature. If somebody sends you a love letter that says "I love you," you're gonna open it. But like you think about things like, just trust, and trust is oftentimes really big in communities of similar-minded people. And so like when it comes to emails, especially back then, it's a lot of them came from, they looked like they were coming from, or they did legitimately come from, it was hacked, but they came from, your friends' emails, or your colleagues, like contacts basically. And what it did was it would go in, it did 4 main things, right? It would go in, and did I already cover that? Oh, Anyways, we're talking about how it's sometimes words just fall out of your head. All right, maybe Eddie will edit this out. Maybe he won't. Who knows? Okay, so the email, when it came, it said "I love you" in the subject line, and the message on the inside was simple. It just said, "Kindly check the attached love letter coming from me." Now we know that, like, seeing words like "kindly," which isn't, typically used in the American like pop vernacular, like we don't use that like that very often, and so that can be something that's a red flag now, but it wasn't back then. And it just said, "Check the attached love letter coming from me." It was personal, it was intriguing, it came from someone in your address book, because it was forwarding itself from infected contacts. Kind of reminds me of, like, how these resistance patterns worked. What looks like a traditional decoration. I highly recommend you go take a look at one, Google it. What they, these were symbols, big middle finger to the occupying forces. And "I love you" is the same way. Simple components arranged in a way that created something way more powerful than the sum of its parts. I am really liking this shoe. It slides well. These needles, on the other hand, are still up for debate because they Alright, there we go. Alright, so now for my favorite parts, the text tab crossover. "I love you's approach of hiding something inside something innocent has a long history in the textile world." I'm sure you can think of other places that hiding something innocent, inside, hiding something nefarious inside something innocent, has been done all over. Anyways, the Norwegian's resistance, though, it shows like a protective side of cultural symbols. So, like I mentioned, during World War II, wearing these became an act of quiet rebellion. And the German occupiers actually banned wearing traditional Norwegian symbols, including like these knitting patterns, like getting caught in your grandmother's sweater could literally get you arrested. And during times like that, when it was, you're being arrested by Nazi police. And so that could also, lead to your death over protesting with textiles. Crazy. Germans, they saw the illegal cultural expression. They saw it as an illegal cultural expression, and the Norwegians were like, try and stop us, So it started with this. Oh, that's right. It started with the students in University of Oslo. They had organized to wear traditional caps with red tassels, and it spread from there. So at the end of this, we put a little tassel on the end of it. Oh, it's going to be so cool. I Love You operated on a similar, principle of hidden information, but with the opposite intent, where resistance knitting is about protection and community and support. I Love You was about exploitation and destruction. They were using an abuse of power, hiding in plain sight. Both of them were. One was about love and solidarity, and the other was about deception and harm. So what can we learn from I Love You today? well, first of all, this attack is almost 26 years old. But the patterns persist, right? Modern phishing campaigns, they still use emotional triggers. Whether the urgency has changed, it might be your account's going to be closed. It may be fear of like suspicious activity detected, or the curiosity of you won the lottery, or, you know, some kind of prince in a foreign land who has money and millions to give you. The technical defenses have gotten way better, but the humans, you know, they remain human. We're still curious, we're still trusting, we're still prone to making quick decisions, you know, when something seems urgent or interesting. And just like in knitting, the best defense is developing good habits and, you know, count your stitches regularly. And cybersecurity, that means that you verify before you trust, and you use pattern awareness to catch mistakes early, kind of like enabling file extensions, using email filtering, keeping software updated, you know, making sure you're using the latest security patches. And maybe more importantly, create a culture where asking questions is encouraged. In knitting circles, nobody gets shamed for saying, does this look right? Or how do I do this? We should have the same attitude in cybersecurity. If an email seems suspicious, it's not paranoid double check, it's professional. And I think that is more of the way that things are going. But, you know, take a quick moment to say, you know, sorry, I was late. I was waiting to hear back from whatever. I don't know. Just take a moment, reach out, double check. If it, like, sorry for the delay. I just want to first make sure that you sent me this. Check from a different place. Don't email them back. That's probably not the best way to do that. But it's not paranoid, definitely. I Love You taught us, you know, that the most dangerous attacks aren't always the most technically sophisticated. And that, you know, continues to hold true today. The ones that understand people and understand human behavior, that's how the bad guys are getting in, and that's also how the good guys are protecting, you know, by understanding human behavior so that we can defend against them. So there you have it. That's the story of I Love You, the love letter that taught the world about social engineering, the importance of user awareness, and the fact that cybersecurity is ultimately about understanding people, not just technology. This hat represents the flip side, how cultural symbols can be used to protect and preserve community instead of exploiting them. Both I Love You and resistance symbols understood the power of hiding deeper meaning in everyday objects. The difference was intent. Now, this is my first attempt at this whole format, so I'm genuinely curious if this worked for you, if this is something you'd like to see more of as I get better at it. Please drop us a comment. Let me know what you think. Should we keep security stitches? Should we let her go with other crazy ideas I've had in the past? What should we do? So I am going to be looking at some other stories to bring up. I think the next episode I'm looking at getting a pattern to use for a story about coded communication during war times. And there's some wild stories out there about knitting patterns that really did like carry secret messages. I'm going to be working on a Morse code encoded shawl. And I'm really excited. And so there's some interesting, cool historical connectors. But until then, whether you're working with yarn or working with technology, remember that patterns matter. Pay attention to them, learn from them, and never be afraid to pull out a few stitches to fix a mistake before it becomes a bigger problem. Keep your stitches tight, your security tighter. I am your host, Ushi, and this has been Security Stitches. Thanks, guys.